got one of the most interesting and controversial guests ever that we get on, and one of the most sought after and requested. Steve Quayle joining us until the bottom of the hour, next hour, maybe even longer if he can do it, to then take 30 minutes of phone calls and questions. I want to cover the waterfront, but I remember reading books in the mid-90s written by Quayle that talked about splicing humans with animals and nanotech and weaponized flu and world government and the globalists funding Al-Qaeda and all this stuff. And I'm like, this guy is really out there. Steve, thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, thank you so much. The more they lie, the more people die. And one of the things that, by the grace of God, I've tried to do and that you've been doing is warning. And what people have got to understand in any covert operation, when there is exposure, there's immediate cancellation. And I believe that when you went public with the whole nuclear story, I followed that. And again, that was the most recent time. Several years before that, there were 29 nukes ready to take out 29 cities in America, and some amazing people from your area in department or area of the military that most people don't even know exist diffused those. That was when, if you remember, Iran was making the bragging about literally the West was going to perish in 29 of our cities. So what we've tried to do and what you've done exceptionally well is educate. But as we're going on the radio today, we're right now where we told everybody we would be. You're getting your sources, I get my sources, and God bless every one of you that brave men and women in the military and law enforcement and intelligence community that speak up and stand up. Because if we were to define today's show, it's freedom's gone by. No longer as Alex Jones or Steve Quayle, we're not fear mongers. We declare the truth. All of the articles coming out in the mainstream is being ordered to hide this, hide that. That's how they work their evil. That's how they work their death. I'm extremely concerned for Texas, Alex, because as I watch the spread of what I would call biologically engineered pathogenic weapons, it seems like the South is the target zone and target area. And one of the great, if you will, dichotomies to me is that Texas has been under weather warfare. You can see the HARP radio frequency weapons that are being used against Texas. Now you guys have got the, variations of the different blues. People in your own family, one of them, I guess, passed away, and the other one hasn't. So now, is fighting for his life. So we're in a position where I think everything that can happen, that we've warned about, will happen, and we're going right into the middle of the matrix. Now, people have got to understand that they can either submit to the fear and denial, or they can act and take action. I'd say that we're now experiencing in the Fukushima probably the greatest control of one of the most deadly and dangerous events to take place. And I'm on record as stating, I make no apologies for it, Fukushima was not a natural event, nor was the earthquake that initiated it, nor were the beams going into the reactor from above it. That was on YouTube. One of the problems in being ahead of time is nobody believes you at that time. And then when we arrive at the time, how do we take them, Alex, from where you've warned and you've warned and warned and warned, we've warned and warned and warned, they've scorned and scorned and scorned. We try and do our best to get them to prepare, and then ultimately all, and I say this, all of their plans, all of their designs are in motion. We're talking about that. You and I have quoted until we're blue in the face all of the quotations from the globalists and the elite that they want to take the world's population down 90%.
That's right. Stay there, Steve. I'm giving you the floor when we come back to break down geopolitically what's happening domestically, and what your key intel is about economic collapse. There's just so much to talk about, but let me just throw out a few of the questions. What's your intel geopolitically, Middle East / Russia / China, with the Chinese president coming out yesterday and saying their main mission is to prepare for war?
Well, Alex, I think that's one of the most critical issues. I can say two things in the mind of the Chinese are ready to go. I have a source very well placed, and he asked a bunch of his flight students who are training Chinese pilots how to fly. he said, what will you do about the Senkaku Islands? And they said, we will take Japan. And unless the people understand, Unit 731 was a biological weapons program of the Japanese government under Dr. Ishii, which was very similar to Operation Paperclip. We took in all the Japanese scientists that were involved in chemical and biological warfare, and also Nanking, the famous rape of Nanking. So there is a virulent hatred between the Chinese and Japanese. Japan is ready to go off the brink and the deep end financially. They're printing money. So geopolitically, what you're seeing is China basically is going to control the entire South China Sea. And we've already prepared. We're moving stuff to Guam and everything. But what's sad is the United States, under this present entity, has displaced probably 200 of our best military leaders. And I want to make a statement. A lot of people get mad when I say stuff ahead of time, and then they go out and do their best, including Northcom, to disparage and do everything they can to try and take away from the validity.
No, you said there was a purge going on 4 years ago.
Yep. And the deal is that what really is troubling, and this is the word I've been preaching. I haven't veered from it, Alex. You know that is that before America is destroyed by the Russians and the Chinese, the sins of America's leaders and the sins of the people are going to be made known. What have we seen? We've seen everything. You just detail it.
You've been saying that for 15, 16 years as a mantra, and it is all coming out now.
It is, and the thing that the positioning of nuclear assets and the betrayal, I asked some of my best sources, you can validate this and verify it, I asked, to what degree do the Chinese possess our most top secret technology? And the exact words were, Steve, they have everything. There's only two exceptions where there's still a little bit of control, and that's some of the electrogravitic, the triangular shaped TR3s, TR4s, and stuff like that, and Stargate technology. And we won't go into that today because there's too much immediate stuff. But see, Alex, the problem is when people can't or won't, or because they're too frightened. Everybody tells me I scare people. I say that the best answer to fear is the truth. That's what you based on. That's what everything you do and everything I do and we do, and those of us who are in this world do. But what's hard to get people to understand is that if you give the game plan, then you can teach the people what to look for. So we're going to talk today about all that. I'm really concerned with the situation in Saudi Arabia. You detail Prince Bandar's basically threat. There's rumors out there beyond just the crazy, websites. There's genuine movement of Russian special forces into the Saudi Arabian theater. When I said that we'll occupy Saudi Arabia, that will come to pass. Saudi Arabia already has nuclear weapons. I've talked to Air Force guys that have guarded them. So
No, I know, and that even came out now. We said that years ago because I was told that by my high-level sources that Iran's got the nukes and that Saudi Arabia has them. Stay there. I want to come back after this quick break and get into that and how you think the Russians are going to respond. And do you think the Russians staged these bombings, or do you think the Saudis who said they would did it? Well, they stand to gain by trying to discredit the Olympics to get back at Putin. I see no reason the Russians would do this. More bombings today, more shootings. It is amazing. And the globalists have al-Qaeda sleeper cells here as well that they run. They work for the New World Order. And you've got just so many sources. So you've got the floor. Where is it going? The mystery illness, all of it. Steve Quayle.
Well, Alex, first of all, I want to take on the Middle East because from the day we became involved in Iraq with our overthrow of Saddam Hussein, obviously going into Libya, Gaddafi, going down the road, going down the line, this is the whole biblical context of the book of Daniel and the end times, especially with the Prince of Persia. Persia is Iran. Now, this is critical. You can tell where this is going to go simply by understanding that in the world of Ahmadinejad, and Iranians, I must make this clear, the Iranians are Aryans. They do not see themselves as Arabs. The whole Arab world is worried about this because they know different factions, Sunni, Shiites, and all the various offshoots. They are looking for the return of the Imam Mahdi. When I said that, people really flipped out 10 years ago. Man, I can't tell you how much hate mail I got on that one. But the point being is that you can predict that this is going to go. That's why all the allegiances and the alliances, in order for the Imam Mahdi, this is all I need to say, to come on the scene, there has to be a global conflagration. That is part of their eschatology. That is why you have the West now being assaulted with radical Islam. You've got the denigration of biblical Christianity, the cowards in the pulpits. You know, it's interesting because when this nation was great and strong, we still had foundational values. Now the attack on the American family, the attack on the truth, everything that stood for what we based our foundational principles on. And when people say, well, they can't do that because of the Constitution, in their mind, the Constitution's over, the Bill of Rights are over, all of the baloney that has come out of the spy agencies. Look, the American citizen, here's a simple question. American citizenry is targeted for destruction. The globalists are going to come in and plunder. They have plundered the middle class. They're going to plunder, rape, pillage. You're going to do it all. Now, that sounds really inflammatory unless you can back it up, and I can back it up, and I will back it up. I expect Vladimir Putin to make an amazing move against Saudi Arabia in the very near future. I think I know what it's going to say, but in lack of waiting for a secondary confirmation how that's going to take place, he's confronted by the same radical Islamic movement, and he knows. Now, listen, let me make something clear on terrorists. Doesn't matter what title you put on them, the Muslim Brotherhood, Egyptian Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, this, that, or the other thing. The bottom line is somebody always pays terrorists to implement a form of sabotage and foreign policy by terror and destruction. So somebody's paying these people. And the people that are paying them are almost transnational, and they're also supernatural in this case. You know, one of the things, Alex, that has been hard for me to get through to people is there is a evil spiritual element. Let's call it the devil. Let's call it what it really is. And even the secularists that want to listen to me and you and get all that data, they don't. There's a contingency out there. There's the ones on the left that say they're servants of the Illuminati, and they do worship Satan. They do believe in all the juju. They do believe in all the juju, by the way, is Swahili for devil stuff. And the thing is that they absolutely have a plan, an agenda. We've never seen Christianity come under attack. We've watched the military. That's one thing I warned about, and people wouldn't listen. Since when did the military, and I'll tell you this, the Air Force was the one that was spearheading it up to basically get rid of all Christians. Now we've got the war on Christianity. And Jesus said if the Christians lose their salt, they're going to be trodden under the foot, okay? When I pray for you, Alex, and I you probably know this, and if you don't, I want to share this. I pray for you when I pray for people globally, internationally, and sometimes I have a listening audience of 7 million.
No, I know. You pray for me on air. I really appreciate that, Steve.
Yeah, no. And I'm just saying this, though. There are intercessors that will tell me stuff that I could not have known about for one time. And look, I'm just going to leave it at this, is the danger that you and your family were in that was stopped because people who love you, Alex, and I'm one of them, who pray and intercede. Look, there are men of God in the highest ranks of the military. I'm talking real men of God. These guys are some of the most dangerous men in the world, but they do love God. On the other hand, some of the most evil and wicked men in the kingdom of hell and Satan are warring. So there's a battle going on. And I tried to get that through to people, and they thought that basically I had too much wacky tobacco. By the way, I don't smoke. So the point is that we're in a time period now where the book of Revelation, and so Revelation of Jesus, that Jesus is the one that's telling us all this stuff's going to come. How about the NSA? How about all of the push towards the entire being able, we won't be able to buy, sell, or trade unless we take the mark of the beast. All the biometric scanning, all that stuff. So how does all this play in? All of every single issue boils around creating a global conflagration in which the false Messiah will come and bring a false peace. You can see now exactly how foreign policy is going, and whether Prince Bandar of Saudi Arabia Arabia was behind it or not. I will tell you this, that Moscow knows better than anybody due to their intelligence apparatus, just the capabilities of Saudi Arabia, separate and apart from the U.S. backing them. Now that you heard Saudi Arabia said that they felt betrayed by the entity in the White House. That's how I refer to him. Well, he has betrayed him. He betrays everyone because he believes in the return of the Mahdi. It doesn't matter what he says publicly. The tree is known by the fruit it bears. So all of the geopolitical realm is based on this. The same thing with the financial collapse. You know, we can warn, you can warn, have been for years, what the plan is.
And we've been collapsing. They just keep denying. Let me throw one thing in, and I want you to get back in the financial collapse. Again, Steve Quayle joins us, syndicated radio host right now, stevequayle.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. If you just tuned across the dial and are wondering what you're listening to, the UN is setting up, as you know, 10 global regions. Bible says that. 10 subregions per region. The UN has said, and David Rockefeller has said, and Kissinger has written publicly and said, all they need is the right global crisis, and the nations of the world will give up all their liberty and accept a one-world government. Now they're openly announcing this, and Albert Pike wrote in 1878, the head of the Illuminati, he said, we're going to have a First World War, a Second World War, to bring in the League of Nations and the UN. Then we'll have a Third World War between Christianity, Islam, with Judaism in the middle. And then out of that, Lucifer, our God, will take over. So whether the Bible's a real thing or not, the point is they are manifesting it like a science fiction book. Science fiction of 100 years ago has now become reality. So even to atheists out there, and of course I believe it to be true and know it is, even to atheists that don't get that, they have to understand by believing it, it's been manifest, and it's not us believing it that manifested it as Christians. The evil ones follow the Bible closer than Christians do. They just follow it from the other perspective.
That's an amazing statement, Alex, because no one knows the devil, or the Bible, better than the devil from the standpoint that's what he tempted Jesus with when he took him up on the top of the temple. You know, bow down and worship me, and I'll give you all the power of the kingdoms of the world. Now, here's what's interesting. The same day that we had the situation that Russia gets hit, the Bakken oil train blows up, and their whole city now is going to be supposedly vacated. Remember the old statement of the Illuminists, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Also, the Russian Red Chinese troops. Now, this is the one that really surprised people, and they denied it, even though I had Robert Jones on my show years ago telling that he had a relative that was sent to Moscow. The Soviet or Russian government took him in and showed him the letter that was sent by the DHS to request Russian troops to come to the United States to help in gun confiscation.
Wait, let me stop you. In NLE 09, they put out too much of the document on the FEMA side, admitting troops from 15 nations participated in civil suppression of revolts in America. They have deals with Mexico and Canada, vice versa. Our troops go into both nations. And, Steve, it was you first in the mid-'90s that said that Russians were training to go up against Americans under Northcom before the term Northcom was even public. And now in the last year, we've seen them publicly training, not there looking inside the B-1 bombers or B-2 bombers to make sure they can't take nukes under treaty. No, they're training domestically. So how is our government with attacking Russia while at the same time bringing them here?
Well, again, the idea is somebody beyond what you see as our government is calling the shots. You know, the puppeteers behind the puppets, so to speak. And what is really challenging, Alex, as you know, is to get, even though you show pictures of Russian armor, Russian Hind gunships, all of the different pictures of the troops, the training, what people have got to remember is this. There's no shortage of funds for the statement that the president made that we need another army beyond the regular military. That's why the regular military, the veterans have been decimated. They're being intentionally destroyed. And I tried to get the veterans to understand that. And I'm just one voice, but, you know, at least I've got a large microphone sometimes.
Oh, no, the number one terror threat, we broke these documents 5 years ago, is returning military. And now that's all public. And the government trains 24/7 to go after anybody who isn't going to join with Sauron.
Absolutely. And now the thing that it even gets worse, when you brought out the MIAC report, and I'm sorry we've got to cover so much, you know, and I get accused of talking too fast, and I tell people this openly, I said, I wish I had Alex's energy and youth, because, brother, you know, after 20-some years of this, you get tired and you get worn down, and by the grace of God, it's the people that pray for you, for me, for others, that are you know, in essence, holding up our hands like Joshua and Caleb, or whoever held up Moses' hands when the battle was against him. But what I'm saying in all this is simply this, is that there is a spiritual battle that is playing out in the physical plane. The battle is real. Behind the scenes, our military, certain factions of our military are killing each other off. It's true in the intelligence agency. The whistleblowers are being decimated. The bragging that, quote, never in the history of America that I know would a president make the statement that this one made, that he's really good at killing people. The whole drones, the Skynet, the layout of the Predator movies, and the layout of the entire, if you will, plan to subjugate the planet totally. The DNA, and that's a question I've got to ask you, Alex. Texas is kind of a dichotomy to me. I love Texas. I lived there back and forth for a number of years, a lot of time. I lived in Irvine and Dallas. But the thing is I guess what is troubling to me is it seems like Texas wants to implement all these strange search procedures. I know what you guys were facing when you tried to just have your constitutional rights. Why is it? I mean, it seems like...
Well, the globalists know that Texas is one of the main points that has people that might lead a resistance to take the republic back. So we are getting hit the hardest, like the main fortress. They're trying to bring us down.
Right. No, I understand that, but I don't understand why the police, who obviously listen to your show, and the powers that be that obviously know that, because obviously, you know, Texas...
Well, when they have police attack us demonstrating and things, the Dallas police wouldn't do it. They brought in federalized sheriff's deputies who look like bouncers from clubs with their shirts hanging out to attack us. And they've got special units of evil people who'll do whatever they're told.
Okay, but Texas does understand, and you talk to enough people in Texas that the weather wars, whether the drought and the attack upon the South. By the way, if you look at where the flu, and let's just call it what it is, the bioweapons been released, it's in the South. Obviously, those aren't the most favored states in the current political climate.
Oh, look, all they do is demonize it and say that they wish the South was dead and kill Phil Robertson and anybody in the South is racist. Absolutely, because as bad as the South is with some of the things in it, it still has Christianity. People still say hi to you. People are more loving. That's what I've experienced, and they want to eradicate that and have them be a bunch of plastic trendies.
Right, and it's interesting because that's a really great word. What they want is they want automatons. They want robots, and that's where the whole point. You know, when I wrote the book Genetic Armageddon, I just want to share with people something. Never in the history of the world has there been so much denial of the obvious. These entities, and they're a supernaturally wicked group of people who claim that they are literally of Lucifer's bloodline. You quoted Morals.
It's the Merovingians. All these royalty, all of them, have written books.
So it's fascinating to me that every action, who is it against? You can say anything about anybody in the world, no flack. You mention Jesus, you mention the word Christmas, you mention anything, and they have this group of trolls that climbs out of the primordial slime to attack Jesus. And I'm telling you this, there's going to be a backlash, because when you stand up for truth, you cannot stand up for truth and not absolutely come to the conclusion that Jesus is the truth. Look, it's not a religious argument anymore. It's a matter of life.
It's a fact. The evil people that have the evil fruits want to destroy real Christianity. They've tried to take it over. They've created Christianoid, plastic fake groups infiltrating it, just like the Tea Party. They tried to infiltrate it. But it is. They literally have a spiritual hatred, and Christians are more persecuted now than ever before. And everywhere the UN goes, whether it's Syria or Central Africa, they are murdering Christians just with total savage abandonment.
Right. right. One of the things that people can do, you know, I'm always accused, I don't know if you are, but what can we do? What can we do? Well, we'll tell you what you do. You've got to get this out of your mind that there's any truth on the mainstream news media. There is no truth. You have to boycott them. You have to avoid them. And pretty soon, even they, you know what's amazing? They hate us, but they still want the last vestige of money. The idea that they're taking our DNA, you know, they have stripped us of our dignity. God gave mankind the most amazing thing in the universe. So amazing that all of the fallen angels and Lucifer himself hated it. God said he created man in his image and likeness. So by destroying mankind, they can't obviously destroy God, but it's like a woman who gets mad at a boyfriend. She can't, you know, get her hands around his neck.
That's right. Satan is scorned. Satan is scorned.
Yeah, so that's the hatred that is being manifested should be, even to an unbeliever, amazing. Because look, what are we telling people? We're not telling people to send Johnny out and blow himself up. We're telling people, look, you've got to understand this is a spiritual battle. Now, I understand and you understand that this thing is not going to stay in the spiritual realm. But there has been a denial, and even the DHS now has compromised churches, where I literally heard, Alex, you probably know this too, that people going to home Bible studies, if they're under a mega-church, have to be fingerprinted, and they have to have their dossiers. It's why I've been against Facebook all along. You know, there are people that share the gospel.
Oh, no, they're bringing Connect systems in to spy on the kids. The churches are telling women to leave their husbands. These mega-churches are satanic command bases.
Oh, well stated. Do you remember, Alex, we did a show, and this I get excited, so if I sound enthusiastic, we did a show talking about Stasi, Marcus Wolf, Yevgeny Primakov. We talked about those people that were brought in from the most notorious spy agencies to set up the very protocols and the very procedures.
And by the way, when I first heard you say that, and Al Martin, I went and dug it up in the congressional record, the $1,100,000 that Marcus Wolf was paid, the former head of the Stasi, in a 3-year contract per year to help set up Homeland Security. They literally are setting it up directly off the East German blueprint.
Yeah, let me tell you something. It's a 30-second story that will appreciate this. It's amazing. I sat with a very famous Russian, I won't use his name, and he may be dead now, a number of years ago, 10 years ago, in Reno, basically blah, 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 buying a whole lot of vodka and a whole lot of shrimp, etc. And he just looked at me and he said, and I'll do the best I can, you Americans are so foolish. He said, you spend trillions to fight us, and now you pay us hundreds of millions to destroy your own people. Now, that's pretty telling, Alex, 10 years ago. You know, I don't remember what my bill was, but it was a couple $1,000 bucks, but it's priceless. And I'm not saying that to brag. What I'm saying is this, is that what's happening is plain to the world, except the people that are mind-controlled zombies.
Exactly. And I have these trendies who follow the trend. They download whatever the new program is and follow it and hold on to that like a lifeboat, even though it's a lead bowling ball, taking them to the bottom of the ocean like a millstone. They will buy anything they're told. That's what a trendy is. They are people that believe the world is going to fulfill them when whatever the world is selling, you better believe is pure poison. What are some of the other big issues that are important?
Well, I think it's really critical, Alex, that people understand that right now we're experiencing such a convulsion in the geology of the planet, and that also is man-made. You know, in my book, and I got to give a pitch for a book I wrote because it was tough for people to grab it. In Genetic Armageddon, I go into the whole Nazi plan that was in New Schwabenland and the Antarctic, and most people think we won World War II. We really didn't, 1947. And I go into the stuff that's leading up to where we're at right now. In my book, Weather Wars, if I can just tell people this, I'm almost out of Genetic Armageddon. Literally only have probably 2 to 3 dozen copies of that. Weather Wars, a couple hundred. But in those, and you've read my books and looked at them, Alex, you know I do a lot of footnoting. I do a lot of validating, just like you do. And even then I find that people just want to shake their heads. So what's going on in the world of the manipulation of the weather is unlike anything we've ever seen before, because there's never been weather modification in full-scale war. The Russians are using it. The Chinese are using it. We're using it. We've got so many volcanoes going live. And one of the very first radio programs I did 20-some years ago, I said, you'll know in the end when the world's major volcanoes all come active at the same time. Well, that puts a lot of sulfur dioxide in the upper atmosphere. It changes the pH of the oceans. And what I postulated years ago is now happening. I said, what happens when all of the nations start using weather weapons and all these different waveforms and energy forms start interfering with each other, echoing, reverberating, bouncing off each other? And what happens to the radiation when it's being attenuated by different waveforms and also lasers, by the way? And if people look up and see the chemtrails, and that's the greatest, I guess, disappointment in my life, is that people can't equate chemtrail saturation one day to an outbreak of really severe respiratory distress the following day. I'm in Bozeman, Montana. We got sprayed the other day, and now we've got a flu up here, and we've got respiratory distress. I've been fighting it, and everybody I know has been fighting it, and they obviously email me and phone call and say, are you seeing it? It's saturation. So the point that I'm trying to make is this, in this segment, the volcanoes are critical. Isn't it interesting? The guy that's stuck on the icebreaker was one of the biggest pundits for global warming, and I think that's God's sense of humor. Global warming? Are you kidding me? And see, Henry Kissinger's statement comes into play here. They are simply the Nazis and, if you will, the globalists and / Illuminati. They are overwhelming us in all realms. And we'll get into the economy next. But what they're doing is simply super saturating our senses so we lose our balance and we lose our reference
That's
point.
right. They're bum rushing us, hitting us with everything. And if people think 2013 was big, 2014 is going to be massive. I want to get your trends for 2014, the economy, and more with Steve Quayle. About 10 years ago, I started having top geologists, the heads of university geology departments on, who studied the Yellowstone supervolcano. All of Yellowstone is just the cone of the sunken caldera with one of the biggest magma formations near the crust of the Earth anywhere on the planet. But here is some of the headlines. I don't want to just mention something like that last hour and say it would destroy the whole U.S. and then not have the proof. Yellowstone's volcano magma is much bigger than previously thought. Huffington Post. Chicago Sun-Times. Yellowstone supervolcano eruption could be 2,000 times Mount St. Helens. And then we've got the New York Post talking to the geologist saying it would destroy the entire United States. And we were showing people that earlier on the screen. I'm not saying this is going to go off right now. The point is that when you've got reports like this, and then the government has known this, and in the past would say, shut up, don't talk about it, don't discuss it. My only point is the system is not in control. And now the volcano is becoming more active. It's rising, and geologists across the board say, they've gotten pretty good at predicting stuff. They say it's due to erupt. And they said, we don't know if that means a month or 50 years, but in the geological record, because they have the isotopes studying the last eruptions, they can tell you when things happen, meteor strikes, you name it. They're saying, basically, we're 1 second away. Now, that could be 1,000 years. But the point is it's getting more and more active every week, and they're getting freaked out. In fact, I was reading articles where geologists that have studied it, that live there, are leaving. I mean, I'm going to explain something to you, folks. There's no known time in human history, in the last 6,000 years of recorded history, when a supervolcano has gone off. And we have all these legends of civilizations that disappeared. Maybe that was it. When they do, they cause ice ages because they throw up so much dust. Krakatoa was known to have lowered world temperatures for several years. It was a small volcano. We're talking tiny compared to something like this. This is thousands of times worse. A hiccup of it. Just a hiccup would be 50, 100 times bigger than Mount St. Helens. Steve, I want to get into the economy with you, but you, again, are the first person I ever heard talk about the super caldera. I didn't even know. I mean, I knew it was volcanic, stuff like Hot Springs, Arkansas, deep down, but I didn't understand it was what they call, basically dormant, but really active, and that it was political correctness to call it dormant, but it's not dormant. It's active and becoming more active because you live in that area, I know, for a long time. Or at least did. I didn't ask where you live now. But how did you have the intel on that first?
Well, I basically, Alex, it's kind of interesting because I'm one of the only guys, maybe there are other people out there, I just don't know them, that have photographed it every year for 40 years. I fly it historically a couple times a year in a helicopter with thermal imaging. I know a lot of people, both behind the scenes and the ones that are quoted in the press, have talked to some of them. I don't know them personally, but have talked to them. And so the thing that I find it's interesting, though, when the BBC, prior to the Banda Aceh earthquake, wanted to come up here and put me on camera, you'll enjoy this. I said, you guys are a waste of time. Yellowstone's not going off, but you've got a very short time to get down to basically Indonesia because that's where the action's going to be. I will say this, that the whole, if you will, lava or magma chamber is headed more towards the south. And interestingly enough, if people want to go on my website, stevequayle.com, one of the most popular places on my website, Alex, is a photo of the day. And I'm like featuring Yellowstone next week to the nth degree because over the years I've seen the change. But what most people don't understand, what affects Yellowstone, I've literally been in Montana, I live in Bozeman still, and there have been 1,000 microquakes and nothing's happened. And I'll tell you a fascinating story. People say I'm a hypocrite because I live here. And I say, listen, I have peace in my heart that Yellowstone is not going to blow because I know quite a bit about the geology and I know what was happening. For the record, at one point there were Russian nukes there. They were taken out. Okay, that wasn't just a fable. That was true. And I happened to talk to the general who was under the authority to basically find him and disarm.
By the way, I mean, it even came out in mainstream news this year that they confirmed that the Russian embassy in D.C. had a nuke in it.
Yep. So the thing is Yellowstone, I'll tell you, you use the word Krakatoa. Krakatoa, the son of Krakatoa, is the one that I've written extensively about, and Sue Bradley, who's gone to be with the Lord, wrote amazing stuff about Krakatoa. But the fascinating thing is that even when you're dealing with volcanoes and the ancient myths and legends, I write about all this stuff to try and make it relevant to contemporary. They're talking about, if you will, demonic evil forces that get released. And now you're seeing people, and this is something that people should be aware of, because you're getting reports, even the Baja Mexico, of falling stars straight down, not with any type of angular trajectory, and people literally seeing these things forming into beings with wings and then disappearing. Okay, now I want to make something clear to everyone. This is not the World Weekly News we're talking about. These are eyewitness accounts coming from all over the world. And all of the ancient secrets, Alex, I remember, I quote the scripture, there's nothing that has been hidden that's not going to be revealed. The control of ancient history that tells us what holds in the future, what the future holds, has been in the hands of the Illuminati.
No, I hear you. There's a lot of stuff we don't know, and they hide all that knowledge, and there's also a lot of other craziness out there.
Let's look at the biggest threat right now. It's Cumbre Vieja, okay? The bottom line is we're seeing specific HARP signatures over Cumbre Vieja in the Canary Islands. We're seeing the New Madrid. We're seeing just massive stuff. By the way, one of the biggest magma chambers besides the Yellowstone, it goes up and down the Cascade region, okay? And Henry Gruver, an amazing...
That's right. We've been seeing earthquakes on the East Coast that haven't happened in hundreds of years at that magnitude.
Yep. Yeah, so what I'm saying is people have got to pay attention to this stuff. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if this stuff interests you and you want to know the science behind it and the control behind it, I wrote a great book called Weather Wars, and I'm only pitching it, Alex, because they're so far ahead of their time that when it happens, people say, how'd you know? I have an answer for them. No one could know this unless God or his servants gave me the knowledge. I want to make it clear, okay? I'm not clairvoyant. I'm just a guy that's a researcher and an author.
You're able to look at all the documents and issues that are there, and then you connect the dots and you know are given discernment. It makes perfect sense. Now, one big issue that's come out is that the police and military are compartmentalized, but they are being trained for martial law. They are being trained for economic collapse. We know all the reasons. We know the stock markets, most companies that are in there are 100 to 1, 50 to 1, 200 to 1 price-earnings ratios. It's totally insane. No one's denying that. What do you expect in the next year or so with the global stock market? Will it go to 20,000? Will it plunge to 10,000? Will they use the plunge to then bring in the bail-in and go after our bank accounts like Europe? What's coming?
Well, they're going for a bail-in like Europe, okay? That's already stated. It's already there. The bottom line is they changed the wording, Alex, in the banking laws from obviously a secured lender to an unsecured lender, which means basically if the bank's in trouble and you put your money in the bank, they have access to your money. It's no longer your money. If you look at the return that people are getting in the banking world, it's pathetic. Now, the stock market's a crapshoot. HFT, high-frequency trading, is the order of the day. The scandals, how anyone can believe that the people that are in trouble for stealing billions and trillions of dollars are going to make it possible for them to make an honest buck. You see, the point is the American middle class has just about been destroyed. The whole insurance business and what people have...
Everything is converting to a fraudulent economy, which gives the globalists total control, where they're exempt from the depression they're putting onto us, and that's it. Everything is a gamed facade at the global level, and they're trying to eradicate any form of independence because then they'll have full control.
Right, and you know, let's talk about the FEMA camps, because you're the one that has documented it over and over and over. You remember all the crap people used to give us about that?
Yes.
Well, you know, if you're planning on placing primarily Christians and others who are constitutionalists, freedom-loving conservatives, what happens to all their stuff? That's a question that nobody ever asks. I'll ask it, I'll deal with it, and I'll tell you it. That's what's promised to the pillagers, okay? You can watch the Viking movies on TV or A&E or wherever it's on and go, gee, that's how those guys made a living, by pillaging. That's what's promised. We've seen it. We saw it in the Louisiana situation where literally homes were ransacked. So what the disconnect, Alex, is this. They don't want just some stuff. They want all stuff. They don't want just some power. They want all power. And they want to remove any challenge to that. And that's why, since I went on talk radio, and you know this, you know that there are times in your life, Alex Jones, where something unseen saved your life, protected you, or you were at the right place at the right time instead of the wrong place at the wrong time. The people who are at the wrong place at the wrong time, we have their obituaries already. So I'm encouraging every Christian or everybody that's seeking to come to know Lord Jesus Christ, that's a great prayer. Lord, help me be at the right place at the right time and not the wrong place at the wrong time. Well,
that's another point. People are spiritually being moved and awakened that there is a force of good and evil. Look at Matt Drudge coming out and saying he learned how to pray and it's done amazing things for him in 2013. And of course, all the science shows when you truly pray, your brainwaves go up. You have high levels of creativity and empathy. There is some connection, and that's what we need to counter this evil. Ladies and gentlemen, we are riders on the storm. Riders on the storm. Evil is being unleashed all over the planet. That's historically what happens. People say, oh, but it can't happen today. It's already happening. And we're learning how they're getting people into all these Stasi and spy networks like it's fun and no big deal. My dad, a couple years ago, got approached by one of his patients from Homeland Security. Said, we want to recruit you to spy on all your patients. He said, for terrorists? They go, no, we want to know everything they're doing and want you to influence them. He thought they were coming to him because he was my dad. And I said, no, talk to the other dentists around town you know. It's InfraGard. They're expanding it. He did, and he said almost all of them got approached at their homes or at their offices, and a lot of them signed up because, like, sure, I want to help my government. It's not your government. It's Obama's private domestic army, just as big and just as strong as our military, a thing he controls. Let's go to Leanne McAdoo's report on one area of this that we're premiering here. And then we're going to get Steve Quayle's take on it. Go to break, come back with your calls with Steve Quayle. But here's that report.
It used to be if you wanted to let your neighbors know about a lost dog or even trying to sell a car, you just come to your local community board. Well, nowadays, neighborhoods are relying on Nextdoor.com. It's a social networking app. It's kind of like Facebook, but it's for just you and your neighbors. Have you heard about Nextdoor.com?
I have not heard about Nextdoor.com. Enlighten me.
Have you ever heard of it?
No, what's that?
It's basically like a Facebook, but for neighborhoods. Are you familiar with the new Neighborhood Watch? It's kind of an online neighborhood watch that's pretty big here in Austin. It's called Nextdoor. They just received $60 million of investment money from Amazon, Google, Facebook, and George Tenet's company.
George Tenet?
The former director of the CIA.
Really? I had no idea about that, and I think it's bad. Definitely. Especially with everything, you know, like the NSA, all that stuff.
What has George Tenet got to do with me?
He's a big investor in Nextdoor.com. I mean, are you comfortable inviting him to your barbecue?
No, and it's amazing that he's working directly with Google and these big corporations. Anytime you have, you know, the private sector coming into things like surveillance and, you know, postage, military, I think that's great.
I'm not going to make any judgments on it, so.
Okay.
Especially with this, like, pointing right in front of me, I'm not going to say anything, so.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's the big issue, is that you might opt out of it, but your neighbors can sign you up for it.
That's awful, and it seems to fit in with the larger pattern of us being more and more surveilled in our society. I'm all for it. If you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about, right?
One thing, we've taken the crabby old lady in the neighborhood and put her online now. So everything and anything is out there.
So you'd be okay with the Tattle app aspect of it as long as you could use it to your advantage to target groups that you don't like?
That's absolutely correct.
The first thing that comes to mind, once you got big money and big government in, it kind of takes your flex away.
Why do you need this repository for the information?
Treat me like a neighbor and not as someone that you need to watch or spy on.
Government's not going to give up power. I mean, most of us can work through adversity, but to test a man's real character, you give him power.
Well, that was pleasantly surprising. It seems like a lot of people, at least here in Austin, are quite aware that we are under massive surveillance and it's gotten out of hand. It seems like those people at least are going to be opting out of the program if they can. But what can we do to let the rest of the country know that this particular neighborhood watch may have been co-opted by the CIA?
Okay, folks, the CIA and In-Q-Tel is funding all of this. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, it's all on record. It's all a big pump and dump. Infraguard, the whole 9 yards. And again, this is about having your neighbors watch you. In a tyrannical government, they come after you because they want to control you and rob you. And these idiots go, well, I'll just go along with it. I'll be part of it. This is the creed of slaves. Steve Quayle, we've got 2 minutes till break. Your take on that report we just filed.
Well, excuse me, Alex. Excuse me. You stated it absolutely. This is the attitude of a slave. What's astonishing to me is how so many who enjoyed the fruits of freedom have lost any touch of reality with history to know the very thing that they're embracing. It wasn't somebody that said the West will embrace the chains that enslave them. When I hear that, I think of a slave to the system. And what I see is the robbing of everything unique in humanity. It's creativity, it's free will, and that's what it is, free will. The state becomes God. There is no God but the state, and you will do what God, the state, in parentheses, tells you to do. And that's why the early Christians had a statement, no king but Jesus, because obviously Caesar came to be and said, unless you worship me, it's, you'll be crucified. So the point is that we're seeing now the most disgusting tattletale society. And when you see the effect of social media on taking people and arousing whatever passion, can you imagine a government agent just saying, go get this guy, he's the wrong guy? I mean,
exactly. This is so the government can find out who likes to tattle and be a little fake informant to then falsely accuse you and disappear you. This is Nazi Germany. We're going to talk about it when we come back on the other side with Steve Quayle and finish up getting into the Stasi Society. Then your calls. Stay with us. I know that the police statistically are waking up a lot. I've got to say more awake than the public. So the police are the answer and they're the problem because they are who the feds have really brainwashed, really gotten ready for war with us. Because when we talk about that Stasi report earlier, Steve Quayle, that you eloquently discussed, this is the essence of slavery. We have to remember the Stasi training is demonizing patriots, veterans, gun owners, and the rest of it. So it's pointed at us. That's how bad this is. But what is your intel on the level of awakening in the military and police?
Well, the level of awakening has gotten dramatically higher, especially in the military. What has really helped, too, Greg Evenson and others who are former law enforcement officers are talking to their brothers in law enforcement. By the way, I have a lot of policemen who do listen to me that send me emails and stuff. The thing that's interesting, Alex, is that they're starting to get the feel now, what I've been warning them about for over 15 years, that they're the blue list. The red list, blue list, and green list for your listeners is a real deal. It's not Patriot.
Oh, no. It's now come out that they have listed people they're going to round up in a collapse. Yeah.
But the blue list is this, and here's what I want everybody to understand. The foreign troops have dossiers on all the U.S. police, whether it's sheriff, highway patrol, they have the dossier. So once the police, sheriff, every form of state and local law enforcement have been utilized in, quote, arresting the patriots, the Christians, whoever's on the Illuminati's kill list, arrest list, then those guys get terminated, okay? That means within every police department there are overseers, and this is the thing that was given to me by a man who lost his life. So I will take no stuff from anybody on this. When a man's willing to come to the truth and it costs him his life, I listen. Once, I don't know the time frame, but within 30 to 45 days after the takeout of the gun owners, et cetera, then the police, those who have been going along with the program, they get taken out. They'll use the law enforcement's families as hostages against them, Alex. And again, when I say this with great trepidation. So my prayer is, and I pray this openly, I don't apologize for it, when the order is given to shoot your fellow American or arrest your fellow American, know that the order that has been given to you from that person, that's the guy that will also be assigned to take you out when you've done the dirty work.
And I want to be clear, this is done 100% of the time in ancient Rome, 100% of the time in Cuba, 100% of the time in any authoritarian state, Nazi Germany, 1934, Night of the Long Knives, where they killed tens of thousands of police and military who had served them and lowered the drawbridge. And then they brought in the SS after that and the Gestapo. And this is done in the Soviet Union. Any of you idiots who actually are conscious of the evil and think it's fun, you are morons. Guaranteed you're going to get chewed up in the Civil War when you try this with the Patriots. That's like sticking your hand on a badger's nest. And then when you're done after that, 100% of the time, they're going to bare minimum fire your butt, keep you under surveillance. So you better join us in the fight against the New World Order right now. And I just, it's so critical that we get the police and military awake, because if we can do that, it's over for the globalist. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I've been banned. My website is now banned at the Pentagon and also banned in foreign fields, but still the troops have a way of getting through to me and getting information, and I openly claim that God will send his delivering angels to release them from the plan of them. You know, the point is, what have we seen, Alex? Not only in veterans, we've seen active duty members of the armed service denied ammunition, denied food, having their meals changed, their
made to serve 7 tours, which is like no one would ever even think of. It's meant to destroy them. They're demonized.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here's the end.
Because a foreign enemy is in control of our military.
You got it. And the bottom line is that the military that has sworn an oath to the Constitution of this country against all enemies, domestic and private, you guys will be systematically taken out. And again, I say this, any order that's given to you, know that that person who's giving you that order will ultimately be the one that takes you out. You want to take some questions?
No, that's right. And we're not going to say what should happen to the person that wants to take you out. But, I mean, it's real simple, folks. Like in the new Red Dawn movie, when, you know, they're telling the people to be traitors, and you know what the cop tells them? He says, you know, kids, take these guys out. I mean, folks, this is really happening, okay? And the point is that we don't want to be the ones that move first. But know this, the minute this stuff starts, if they try it, all hell's going to break loose. We're trying to get the word out now to stop this. And, Steve, I know you know this. I know that this broadcast and what you've done at others, because we now know in hindsight, has, with people's prayers and everything, already stopped attempted takeovers before. So, but here's the catch-22, then we'll go to calls. We hold it back. Millions of other people in different areas, they hold it back. We all hold it back by exposing the program. It's hard for them to go green light. But at a certain point, we start beating them. They're going to have to green light or they totally lose. So how do we stop the cornering of these rats?
Well, I have an answer for you, and it's not a spiritual, it's a practical answer. Against overwhelming odds, when people have yielded in prayer and fasting and called upon God in His mercy, God takes the very weapons that are going to be used against the Christians, the believers, the Constitution, the people of good moral character. When I say moral character, I'm talking about people who have the right heart, and He gets the enemy to turn their weapons on each other. Don't think Russia and China don't have plans for each other. And so my prayer continually, Alex, is all their weapons, devices, communications, and I'm telling people how to pray, will be turned against one another and not against
And
people.
by the way, if you read naval dispatches from admirals, especially the British and others, they would pray in council, and a lot of these guys were even worldly, but they knew the power of it, for their enemies to be frustrated, for their systems to break, for them to be confused, and that's any successful army. George Washington, who was a believer, he did that as well. It's real, ladies and gentlemen.
It is real. And Alex, again, Pastor David Langford and I, quick 10-second piece, we, for 5 weeks on Doug Hagman's show, we had a time of calling the people of America to repentance. I know this. I know I've watched it happen, and I've gotten emails from people in high places and people coming by my store. They won't call or anything, just showing up and saying, you don't know what that did. They fear the power of prayer more than they fear any weapon that you could field against them.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, if folks don't have enough brain cells, they don't resonate and pick it up. That's in major medical studies. Let's talk to Bridget in Minnesota. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Steve.
Hey, thanks for holding.
Sure. Of all the questions, a million of them in my head, I chose to ask about the chemtrails and the mystery illness like your Uncle Alex and your cousin have been stricken with. Steve, have you ever used like olive leaf oil like Alex said he has?
Yes,
or any oil of oregano? Or
and olive leaf to fight what I'm under right now. We got sprayed horrifically. I can only tell you this, olive leaf and echinacea combined have really helped me.
Okay, and Alex, where do you get your olive leaf oils? Because obviously it works.
Well, I've been okay, and my cousin died. My uncle is getting a little bit better, but he's still, you know, in really serious water. And thanks for all for your prayers. I've got a bunch of different brands of it, and I do take it, and I try to make my children take it. The oil of oregano is incredible, but kids don't like it because it tastes. I love hot, spicy things, so I like it. But obviously, it's not really hot and spicy; it's just real strong. But I try to get them to take that, and they've gotten better. But it's definitely hitting Texas. I mean, they're having massive deaths at every major hospital, and it's not in the news. And again, when they have some fake flu thing, they hype it up like it's the end of the world. They're not hyping this up, which historically I've seen means that they're behind it. And I've talked to the doctors. They're saying it's really weird. It's like staph and other bacteria that are souped up with microplasms in them, which they've never seen anything like this. Thank you for your call, me. I'm Steve Quayle. Your take on that?
Well, I think that right now the idea is to incorporate everything that God has created, and there's a honey too that comes from New Zealand, Alex, called Manaluka. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but it's amazing stuff, and what's fascinating is the ancients had to rely on this, not the pharmaceutical companies. It's just like the reason, let me share this. The end time as defined in the book of Revelation is a pharmaceutical, devil-worshipping society that centers around merchandise. Does that sound familiar? And so the thing you have to do is counter what they've tried to do, and I believe that the Bible gives us absolute, even great instruction in that realm. So the things that you're doing with your health food supplements, that's the only thing that's going to help. It's kind of like too, when you're taking coconut oil, the lauric and caprylic acid in coconut oil, the people at Interfoods have a great product that mixes even hot chocolate and cocoa milk.
I agree. We carry it at InfoWarsStore.com. Oh, incredible. Oh, absolutely. Coconut oil, they admit, helps people with epilepsy. It's all right there. Transmission of radio for 2013. Be back tomorrow live in 2014 on New Year's Day. Have a safe night out there with all the drunks and crazies and checkpoints and the rest of it. I want to just take this time briefly to thank all of you for your support, your prayers in the last year. We couldn't have done any of this without you, and we're all in this together, those of us that love liberty. Let's go ahead now with Steve Quayle and talk to Ben in Missouri. Ben, thanks for calling and holding. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for taking my call. I listen almost every day, and every now and again You have a show that's just amazing, over the top, really good. This is one of them. I think it's, Steve has brought up one of the big points that's it's actually changed my life a lot. I was never really a religious person, and for a long time I considered myself atheist. Ever since I've been awake, I've really realized that God plays a huge role in everything.
Religious experiences have the highest brain waves. So even if it isn't real, it is real. We need it. Go ahead.
Definitely. We make it real. Also, your products are great. I love the coffee. It saved me a bunch on Starbucks.
Thank you, brother.
I got my fluoride shield. Had a little bit of detox going on, but now I feel great. The point that I was going to make today was about the awakening, I think, of the masses. I think 2014 is going to be the year when the masses kind of wake up. And there have been a couple of things that have happened that have been touched on in our local media here in St. Louis that specifically have really given me a lot of hope. The first one was they had some DNA swabbing checkpoints here in St. Charles County, which is near St. Louis. It's right next door, basically. And, they reported on it about a week later in the paper after there was a bunch of public outcry. And, you get a lot of public opinion by reading the comments section of stories like this. And every single comment was, how can they do this? This is so wrong. And to the point where the local St. Charles County sheriff came out, because it was sheriff's deputies who were off duty who were doing
exactly, and we have to say no, and he backed off, right?
Right, he definitely did.
He told, but see, now they're using LAPD on duty. We got to jump to get to more calls here, but Steve Quayle, quick comment on that, then we're going to go to Ryan.
Well, I think the thing is that, God bless you, my brother, the one that just is talking. The thing is that when you have higher brainwave activity, and this is what I want to tell everybody, you've got to disconnect from mainstream TV. You've got to disconnect from the news,
that's right.
Because, Alex, there's 200 patents out there of how they are lulling you to sleep.
That's right, lowering the brain waves. Again, the state doesn't want you to up your brain waves. That's why they want you to be an atheist. And I'm sorry, atheist, religious people have higher brain waves, and we have higher intelligence. There's so many studies. It's incredible. Let's go ahead and talk to Ryan in Nevada. Go ahead, sir, your question for Steve Quayle, or comment.
Hi, guys. Calling you from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm an Afghan vet, as you alluded to prior, and found out kind of about the drug trade and whatnot that they did over there through like a ramble of friends, and saw the conspiracy theory, and here I am. Trying to make the best use of my time to wake other people up. I've been, taking people to dinners and talking to them and kind of making it more intimate, calling the Congress people and whatnot. What else am I missing out here?
That's right. He's wanting orders from headquarters, Steve. How do we get our force multipliers like this combat vet in the field in America, in the war, to awaken people?
Well, first of all, this is how I do it. I have learned to basically be just like he's a vet. A well-placed shot is better than spraying and praying, okay? So I pray in the morning or sometime in the night and say, Lord, take me to the people and help me to speak to the people whose hearts are open. And, he's doing the right stuff.
That's the key. You've got to pray for discernment and say, God, I'm weak. Protect me, help me, lift me up, fill me with your spirit, command me, tell me what to do. The answer is just give God the keys. It's overdrive because this is the final radio transmission I'm doing in 2013. Nightly news coming up tonight, 7 o'clock Central. We got Steve Quayle on the line with us. Ryan, there's something you can do right there is praying about what you should do. But I would go speak at city council, county commissioners. I'd go in and meet the sheriff and bring them literature and documents. I would put out a local newsletter. I would start your own YouTube channel and just do citizen reports either on the street or wherever. They don't have to be perfect or even great. At first, it's the resistance that matters. And those things will grow. But the biggest thing is you need to warn people. I mean, I do it in grocery stores. I do it at counters. When the system pushes their propaganda of loyalty cards, they get a speech. When I come up and see, the gum that has the aspartame, I talk about it. I was told by a manager at a CVS that they basically pulled the fluoride baby water out of the stores in most areas because nobody's buying it, and that they knew that I'd been reporting on it. And I'm not saying I did that alone. A lot of people did. I mean, I'll go in grocery stores, folks. I'll print up on a computer when I'm about to go to the store or something. about, fluoride brain damages your child, Harvard study, and I will sit there with a printer that has sticky back where it's like 20 stickers, and I will go in the grocery store. I think I'll videotape this today and do it. I'll maybe take my son and do it, and I will stick stickers on the thing in the store. I mean, look, this is a war. That's the bare minimum I can do. I'm getting aggressive, and I don't just do that, on the air. I don't just say do this stuff. I do it on the street. Steve, any other comments or any other comments from Ryan?
Well, I think what you're doing is everything has to be proactive. Here's the thing. Everybody has got to be proactive. And when it comes to politics, forget an election. But recall petitions and even the very threat of recall petitions, and I'm talking about once you have a localized group, that can be the most effective legal means to immediately recall. And Nevada, there's a state I can't figure out. There should be a recall petition on Harry Reid because the guy is absolutely probably the most open expression outside of Feinstein and Pelosi of everything that's against everything this country stood for.
Harry Reid is an absolute enemy of goodness. He is an enemy off the chart. Does that answer your question, Ryan?
I was just going to ask, have you guys heard of Ann Barnhart?
That name rings a bell. Who is she?
Yes, I know Ann Barnhart. She basically was a very successful commodity trader that got out of the business because she was telling people what's true. By the way, she is no pushover. Anyway, it's got an AR-15 that's pink and puts out her address and challenges any Muslim that wants to take her life to come and try and do it. The lady's bold and the lady's knowledgeable, and she's very...
Oh, I know who she is. A very attractive lady as well.
Yes. So, and I got to tell something. I tell every woman out there, you must learn. Go to a shooting range. Learn how to handle a pistol and a rifle because your life or the lives of your family members may ultimately depend on it. A well-armed society is a free society. And by the way, don't kid yourself. All registration leads to confiscation. And the toss-up is, will the guns go before California goes into the ocean? And based on all the seismic activity going on California, that is going to be an interesting play. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot find gun control without genocide in the history.
That's right. Final consumerism, the trendiness, the fruits of the New World Order that are death. And I certainly don't like establishment religion, but you've got another big study out. People have higher levels of brain waves, higher intelligence, higher creativity, and more brain cells, per cubic area. People who are religious or spiritual have thicker brains, which could protect them against depression. The cortex is thicker in people who are religious than it is with those who aren't. This thickening could provide some protection against depression. Suggests being religious enhances the brain's resilience against depression in a physical way. Exactly. That's why they say there's no atheist in foxholes. And I'm not attacking atheists. I'm not in a war with you. I mean, all these stupid churches and all this corruption, I don't blame you. You see, this is like, thinking Jesus is like Santa Claus or something. I get it, okay? I get what your issues are. I'm saying you haven't experienced some things that I won't even talk about on air. Let's just say this. There's a lot going on in heaven and earth that isn't in your books, to quote Shakespeare. What is that, from Othello? The point is that there's serious stuff happening. I want to go to your phone calls with Steve Quayle in this final segment, but we do have some footage from Dubai where it just became midnight. There's a country that uses its oil wealth to actually build a big infrastructure, and so even when their oil wealth leaves, they're going to be successful, and they're building what they call a civilizational type system. And here they're shutting us down, so we're not self-sufficient. There they're trying to make themselves self-sufficient. Well, that's what Henry Ford wanted to do in America, where he paid his people enough where they could buy the cars. And the globalists have gone the other direction. And Dubai is incredibly corrupt. I'm not saying they're perfect. The point is that we can build incredible civilizations, and the globalists don't want that because they want to crush the West because it has Christianity in it. But after they've crushed the Christians, folks, they're going after everybody. They know Christians will be the opposition to it. And that's why you see the enemy going after Christians so incredibly hardcore. Let's go to more calls with Steve Quayle. Doug in Delaware, thanks for holding her on the air.
Hey, I want to kind of get back to basics with folks. I mean, what can we do? They're setting up this police state. Why? Because they have destroyed the currency. They know that when the people figure this out, they're going to be mad. If we don't trigger a bank run now and they get away with a false flag, they'll have that to blame as cover for bringing down the dollar system. If we trigger a bank run first, that exposes the banks as being the weak link, and it puts the attention on where it should be, not on the boogeyman that they're going to blame after the false flag.
By the way, that's one thing Steve wanted to talk about. He hasn't. They're clearly setting up cybersecurity, and even Wired admits this, to shut down things. Clearly, most of these attacks are being done by insiders. I agree with you. I think they're going to use the dollar collapse and other currency collapses to bring in their new global SDR with a fake cyber attack that'll be real. They'll launch it, but it'll be fake in that they launch it. Steve Quayle.
Alex, what's going to happen to Americans? I don't know what day it'll be, maybe a Friday. They'll go to sleep over the weekend, even 1 minute before the market opens on Monday. Cyber attack will pilfer everybody's savings, everybody's checking account, their savings account, and they'll blame it on some third party, and literally then you'll be forced into their system. Now, what the caller is suggesting, I agree, but when you've got people that don't even carry $2 or $3 in their wallet, checking out with their credit cards, even to buy a cup of coffee, you know something's wrong with that. And that's why the gold and silver, let me just speak to that real quick. Gold and silver is being acquired by everybody leaving Dubai, anybody who's Indian who works in Dubai or from any country, Chinese, all the people that are skilled workers are leaving Dubai with gold to bring it in their country. China's promoting gold to their citizenry. India is now. Silver, everything.
The elite all drove it down with paper naked shorts, as you know. That's on record the last 3 years.
Yeah, see,
so they could hoard it. So they could hoard it.
Yeah. So the point is, though, is if they're buying it, listen, gold always moves from weak hands to strong arms. The paper price is irrelevant. Still, right now, people say, where do you see gold going, Steve? I see it maybe touching 1180. That's the time to buy. Anything at 12 is time to buy. Silver, because you will have to have something to barter. Alex, never have we lived in the technological point where we are now, where unless you take the electronic mark of the beast, okay, the beast is a system, obviously it's a literal entity also, but how are the people who are basically living going to continue on commerce? That's why barter is going to be the order of the day.
And again, if we have a depression, even on the order of 1929 that went on for 10 years, a university study, people can pull it up, they estimate 7 million people, I think it's the University of Chicago, 7 million people died as a result of the Great Depression here from starvation or malnutrition by other diseases. 90% were quasi-self-sufficient rural. Now it's flipped with 90% being urban. Don't know how to tie their shoelaces. What is going to happen if we have a Great Depression? It will be, the Pentagon says an 80% population reduction. Have you seen that number?
Yes, and I agree with that number because it's real. And that's the number the globalists are shooting for. We got 300 million people, 80% is 240 million people. That's how the control of food and water. Look, even the American resources of water, there are companies like Nestle trying to buy, and they already own one of the Great Lakes, but there are people trying to gain the control of all the water that exists, the headwaters, and that's why...
Oh, no, he gives it to China, and now they're trying to not let the locals have their own wells and get it, so Nestle and the Chinese can have it. It's a total sellout because we don't have any lobbyists. We don't have any clout. We just lay here and take whatever Homeland Security, that's a foreign group, does to us. Thank you so much, caller. Anything else?
Alex, the thing is that people have to become self-sufficient in water. They have to store water. Look, I was one of the founders of the whole prepper movement almost 30-some years ago. Water, 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 a way to get it, a way to purify it, and don't drink anything. Same thing with air purification. It's going to become mandatory that you only, like what's happening in Texas, other places in the South, Montana. But if you see chemtrail spraying, that's a good time not to go for a 2-mile jog. You've got to understand they are serious about killing 240 million people, and they
are weakening this country. It's just, I mean, it's insane. I just can't believe it.
And ISON, I'm curious if you might know something about Comet ISON, if you think NASA was correct when they said that it's nothing to worry about after it passed around the sun, and also I think I may have found something in Revelation at the first trumpet sounding. It follows fire hailing from the sky.
Yeah, wormwood and all the rest of it. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of comments, but this one was rare because it came in. They thought it went into the sun, but then a big piece of it survived and shot out, boomeranging around the sun. Very bizarre. Steve Quayle?
Well, I believe, number one, that ISON is an issue. I believe that you're seeing all of the meteorite and the former destroyed asteroid belt being sucked in to our area. I believe it's
Hey, you know 2 days ago the sun's polarity shifted.
Yep, and here's the thing, Alex, with all the HARP weather activity, I proposed this almost 10 years ago, is that we're acting now as a giant electromagnet, and we're literally bringing this stuff upon us. So I believe that, you know, the 10th planet, Nibiru, when I started talking about that almost 15 years ago or so, it was then called Gabriel's Fist, okay? And obviously, it brings judgment. All through history, comets and asteroids are harbingers. I believe there's a difference, though, between a comet and an asteroid and a falling angel. Angel, the word star, and we're seeing the falling stars literally perfectly perpendicular, falling straight down vertically.
My dad was out in Montana earlier this year, and they sat there watching V-shaped craft. He's a pilot up at, had to be 100,000 feet, moving at speeds that were just tens of thousands of miles an hour, making right-angle turns. It's just such advanced stuff the government has. And that's why they're so arrogant. We're going to skip this network break, go to the bottom of the hour, and then let Steve Quayle get out of here. Yeah, I mean, I know that they already rolled drones out decades ago, and then it was in the local news years ago. They were using it to spy on cattle ranchers and people that built barns on their house, in their backyards, or if a neighbor thought somebody stole their cow, they would send in, the Pentagon with a Predator. And then the media would attack us saying it didn't exist. And yes, I meant to mention that earlier. But I don't tend to crow, and we've said this over and over again, and now they've designated government drones for surveillance in 6 states, but they're already doing it. Steve, your take on that?
Well, I think that the bottom line is what they admit to and what they have are two different things. This is all just trying to make something that's very evil, very autonomous killing machines seem palatable, and I reject them. I pray for the guys that are good shots. I literally pray, Alex, that those things will drop out of the sky, follow the sky. And we did that one night on Doug Hagman's show, and the following day, one of them crashed, okay? I'm just saying that, look, they have their technology. We have our determination, and we have the living God on our side, and He is against evil. So when you take your stand against evil, you can't do it in your own strength and might, but we can be strong in the power of the Lord and in His might. So I curse them. I know people, when you see chemtrails, you can rebuke those things in Jesus' name, and I do. I pray for those planes to crash, okay? I do. And so I'm just praying for the day that one goes down over Montana, and I'm the first guy there with my digital camera.
Well, I tell you, they admit they're doing geoengineering. They're adding stuff to the jet fuels. The companies don't even know. It's all compartmentalized. It's all because we're naive. But, I mean, the sky's the limit with what they're doing. Brandon?
No, that's all. That's all my questions. Thanks, Steve and Alex, and I hope you have a happy New Year's.
You too, brother. It's a key year. I mean, my spirit, my gut is just like reeling with just the onset of this enemy marching in against us. And I'm just here trying to rally people to realize you can debate how deep the rabbit hole goes. I mean, I hope Steve Quayle's wrong about some of this, but he's been right about so much before that I just hope and pray that, and again, I talk a lot about praying and God now because it's just all coming true. It's all so horrible. And that's just where my gut goes, that's the answer. It's just so horrible.
Well, Alex, you have so much evidence, and this is something that we both fight. The preponderance of evidence is not only with our argument, it's with the truth, okay? And so the reason your guts are churning is because your mind goes at such a fast rate, and that's a God-given gift. I know of no one else on the planet that goes as fast as you. That's not flattery, it's just the truth. The Bible says give credit, honor, but that's your gifting. So in order to cope with that, the only way that you can cope with that because you already know what it means, okay? Most people take the information that we give, we warn, we provide all the documentation, and they have to have a process that they can accept in steps, okay? I go from event to what the end product is, okay? I draw those conclusions very fast, and people accuse me of talking so fast, and I say to them, I have only this opportunity with Alex Jones today to share everything I want to share. If this were, God forbid, my last day on the radio, I would tell them all the same thing. Get right with Jesus, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not unto your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your path. Alex, it doesn't matter. The mainstream media couldn't tell the truth. They are owned by the father of lies. So I get the thing where I have people in my own family who say, well, they think I'm crazy if it's not on Fox. I said, well, listen, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that those feelings you have, Alex Jones, in your stomach, that I have, I literally experience nausea when I read the headlines of pedophilia going to be going mainstream, okay? I literally get nauseated when I see veterans literally being denied life-saving medicine, and meanwhile they can buy billions of bullets, billions of our, not billions, but...
And pay for everybody's sex changes.
Yeah, and that's all cool. And woe unto them. Woe unto them. That means evil be unto you that call good evil and evil good.
I hear you. It's just epic. I can feel 2014 coming. This is 20 times the concern I've ever had. It's just looming. And I'm not trying to be negative here. It's positive to know the enemy's coming. It's good to know the thief's coming. It's good to know the attacker's coming. We need to get ready. We need to blow trumpets from every hilltop and get people rallied to resist this, because laying down to it, folks, is what got us to this position. Steve Quayle, I think it's fitting that you were here with us the last radio show of the year. And hopefully you'll come back more often to do a prepping show with us, because I know you are one of the founders of the prepper movement, and you certainly saw this a long way off. And so thank you so much, and God bless you, and have a great New Year, my friend.
Thank you, Alex, and I pray for you, your family's safety, your lovely wife, and may God, and listen, brother, He will have you at the right place at the right time, and may you be hidden from all evil, Alex. And my prayer for you is that every plot, scheme, plan against you will fail, and that their weapons will be turned on each other. God bless everyone. May you stand strong in the power of the Lord Jesus Christ. Call on Him. It's time to get to know Him. Bye-bye, Alex.
All right, thank you so much. Well, that was the best interview ever with Steve Quayle. Oh, man, it started kind of slow, and then it got just better and better and more informative. But it's just, if 10% of what he's saying is accurate, I think most of it is. I mean, I know he believes all of what he's saying, but we're all connecting dots. We all see through rose-colored glasses, myself included. But if 10% is true, it's incredibly bad. But at least we know what's happening, and unfortunately, I think almost all of it was true. It's just, in the other parts I can't confirm, so who knows. But I sure hope it's not true, is I think what I meant to say. That's it for this year of radio broadcasting. Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock Central. Please continue to support the broadcast. Spread the word about the transmission more than ever. Please visit InfoWarsStore.com. We try to bring you the most informative books, videos, films, liberty-based apparel to help spread the word and meet like-minded patriots. The best storable seeds catalog out there of non-GMO, heirloom, open-pollinated at the lowest prices, dash cams to protect yourself or your family at the lowest prices that are high quality. Made1776.com is the website that takes you right to the Made in America apparel that we have, and all your purchases make the show possible, and what we're building and what we're doing. We're just trying our best here, grassroots, and certainly having an effect. You can get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership, and then 11 people can use it. It's $5.95 a month, or get a yearly membership and get 5+ months free off the regular price. That's going to go into the new year with a New Year special. Was our Christmas special. We're going to have that go a few weeks at least. So PrisonPlanet.tv, if you are a member, I want to thank you. Be sure and get your friends and family to share your membership and see the Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock Central. A lot of key reports that didn't make it here on the radio will be premiering there tonight. And to all of our friends in the media that love liberty, we don't all totally agree with each other, but we just don't like evil, and we want the good guys to win, and we abhor tyranny. And we have an instinct to stomp it in the ground. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're just telling like it is, hardcore all the way, not holding back. And we've done the intel research on the enemy. They are a pack of devil worshippers. Now, is there really a devil? You can debate that. The fact is our enemy are devil worshippers. They follow basically Mordor, a burning all-seeing eye. I mean, that's not us copying a movie. That's that's the book copying what the elite follow in that Christian analogy. All right, folks, prisonplanet.tv, don't forget that.